Alright, enough stalling. Let's get back into it.
Alright everyone, settle in. We're diving into the heavy stuff today. We're looking at The Hymn by Jackson and Howard, specifically a section that attempts to trace the shadow history of our entire civilization.
I can already feel the weight of it. It's that feeling of looking at the enough world and realizing the official story is just a thin veil over something much older and much more dangerous.
Dangerous? I was just worried about my skin peeling off from that sunburn. But sure, let's talk about forbidden ancient conspiracies.
Well, Paco, stay with us, because the authors are about to claim that the very symbols of our faith are actually fragments of a much more subversive Luciferian lineage. They start with the myth of the dying god, the idea that a deity must die to fertilize the earth.
The classic dying and rising trope. Always a bit dramatic for my taste.
But look at how they connect it. They say in Celtic myths, this otherworldly weapon is the spear of Lug. But then, and here's the pivot they claim, that in esoteric Christian mysteries, that same spear is the one used by Longinus to pierce Jesus on the cross.
Wait, so they're saying the weapon that kills the god of light in one myth is the same one used to kill Christ in the Christian version?
Exactly. They're tracing a single, violent thread through different cultures. They even link it to the Norse myth, where Loki uses a dart to kill Balder.
Okay, so it's all one big cosmic assassination plot. I dig it.
It's a bit much, but let's look at this part about the Emerald Table. They claim Solomon had a Luciferian emerald that was carved into a cup for the Last Supper, and that it traveled from Jerusalem to Rome, then to Toledo, Spain during the Moorish invasion.
And they suggest this wasn't just a physical object moving around, but the literal transmission of Hermetic, alchemical, and Luciferian heritage from the Middle East into Europe.
So the clues aren't just gold or jewels, but ideas?
Right. They actually say, and I love this stat, people spend their enough lives hunting for physical treasures, like at Rennes-le-Château, never realizing the treasure is actually esoteric knowledge. The Emerald Table might just be a wordplay to hide its true origin.
Like a cosmic version of a hidden folder on a desktop. Do not open unless you have the password.
But then they get into the Grail, and they aren't talking about a fancy cup. They use this quote from Andrew Sinclair. He says the Grail is everything: a cauldron to the Celts, a horn of plenty to the classics, the Ark of the Covenant to the Jews, even the Kaaba to Muslims.
That's a huge claim. They're saying the Grail is just a shape-shifting symbol for direct proximity to the divine light.
It echoes what we talked about earlier regarding the golden chain, the idea that there's this continuous, interconnected structure. The form changes, but the resonance remains.
Speaking of changing forms, did you see the part about the King of the Fisher? He gets healed and the wasteland turns into roses.
Yes, and they link it to Sleeping Beauty, the sacred marriage between the red rose and the white rose.
It's a very specific, very charged imagery. The masculine and the feminine uniting to restore the land. It's much more visceral than the sanitized versions we get in Sunday school.
Speaking of sanitized versions, let's talk about the bloodline nonsense. They bring up the 1980s bestseller, The Holy Blood and the Holy Grail, the claim that the Merovingian dynasty was descended from Jesus and Mary Magdalene.
Oh, I know this one. The Priory of Sion, the secret society that basically invented the whole thing, right?
The authors actually give credit to the skeptics here. They mention Robert Richardson, who argued the Priance Priory of Alona was a complete 20th century hoax created by a Frenchman named Pierre Plantard.
But, and there's always a but with these authors, they argue that even if the documents were fake, the concept of a divine lineage is an ancient, true esoteric teaching. They point to guys like Julius Evola and Walter Stein.
Yeah, and they're basically saying that while the politics might be messy, the underlying idea of high vibrational souls in certain lineages is a real hidden history.
They end this section focusing on Mary Magdalene herself. They contrast the church's portrayal of her as a prostitute with the more mystical view of the woman with the alabaster jar, the one who prepared Jesus for his burial.
It's about the ritual, isn't it? The anointing. The preparation for the death that leads to the resurrection.
Exactly. It's a historical footnote that opens a door to the idea that the most sacred parts of our history were intentionally obscured to keep us from realizing our own potential for transformation.
Well, if we're uncovering forbidden truths, I hope the next chapter has fewer assassinations and more snacks.
Don't hold your breath, Paco. We're just getting started.
Okay, we're moving deeper into the text now. We just left that heavy discussion about the bloodlines and the official versus hidden histories. And now the authors bring us to a very specific, very sensory moment, the scent of spikenard.
Spikenard. I can almost smell it. They describe it as this incredibly expensive, precious incense from India.
Right, and they use this detail to make a point about social status. They say the cost was whispered among those present, including Judas.
Wait, so even Judas was tracking the price tag? Talk about a bad vibe. Man, this perfume is way too expensive for a guy like us.
Well, it's more than just the money, though. The authors argue that while Judas saw it as a waste of money, the others saw something much deeper. They say it was a ritual.
A ritual of preparation. They actually claim that in Jewish custom, it was common for a spouse to anoint their partner before burial.
And that's where they pulled the thread on Mary. They say she wasn't just preparing a body, she was acting as a priestess of the goddess, signaling to everyone that she was the wife of the anointed one.
See, there it is. The authors aren't even trying to hide the sacred marriage angle. They're explicitly linking her to the divine feminine.
They even tie it back to the Song of Solomon, the royal celebration of the Queen of Sheba. They're suggesting the scent links the priestly kings of the Old Testament to the ritual of Christ.
It's like a cosmic perfume commercial, but with much higher stakes.
But then they pivot to the name itself. This is where it gets really wild. They start deconstructing Magdalene.
Yeah, they claim the name translates to watchtower, or tower of the flock, and they take that literally as a spiritual role as much as a physical building.
They link it to the Watchers we were talking about earlier, the angelic beings who observe humanity. They even bring in the Tower of Tubal, the tower in the tarot.
Even the Fortress of the Rose in traditional witchcraft. They're saying her very identity is built on the idea of a guardian or a lookout.
And then they drop the bombshell about her lineage. They aren't just talking about a random woman from Galilee. They're claiming she was part of a royal, even kingly bloodline.
Here we go. The royal blood theory. I bet there's a crown involved somewhere.
They cite 9th century records, saying her mother, Eucania, was from the Hasmonean royal house. And they even suggest her father was a Syrian aristocrat.
So, she's basically royalty playing an undercover role in the middle of a revolution.
But look at how they flip the script on the prostitute label. They say that some historians think the temple prostitute label was actually a smear campaign to hide her true role serving the Middle Eastern goddess.
It's a classic shadow history move. Take a figure that the church demonized and claim they were actually the high priestess of the very thing the church was trying to erase.
It's like finding out the villain in a movie was actually the only one telling the truth.
And it gets even more intense when they get to the Gospel of Philip. They mention the sacred sexual union. They literally call her Maria Lucifer, the light bearer, who provides enlightenment through a sexual bond.
Wait, did he just say Maria Lucifer?
He did. The authors claim she is the light bearer who brings illumination through the sacred union.
That is absolutely wild. They are literally equating the feminine aspect of the Christ event with the Luciferian energy we've been discussing. It's a total rebranding of the entire Christian narrative.
Okay, that's a heavy hitter. I think I need a drink. Or a very strong tea.
Don't get distracted, Paco. We haven't even reached the part where they claim the family fled to France with the Grail.
Right. They transition from the spiritual to the geographical. They talk about Joseph of Arimathea, the burial, and then suddenly, the migration to southern France.
And the Black Madonna. They link the figure of Saint Sarah, the Black Queen of the Gypsies, directly back to this lineage.
It's a massive, sprawling web. They're connecting the dots from the Levant to the Camargue, even suggesting Jesus might have been initiated into Druid mysteries in Britain.
At this rate, the next chapter is going to tell us that Atlantis was actually located in a suburb of London.
Don't give them ideas, Paco. They're already halfway there.
All right, we're moving into a really dense stretch here. We just left the idea of Mary Magdalene as this light bearer, and now the authors take us on the physical trail of her escape. They mention Thomas, specifically Doubting Thomas, taking her nephew to Santiago de Compostela in Spain.
Which, if you follow the text, isn't just a random road trip. They claim this site became a massive pilgrimage hub, but for a very specific reason.
Right. They say St. James was the patron saint of doctors and alchemists. And because of that, they link the famous 16th century alchemist Nicholas Flamel directly to the grave of James.
See, I knew it. Flamel wasn't just making gold in a basement. He was following a spiritual GPS straight to Spain.
And it gets weirder. The authors claim that the early Christian tradition says St. James actually defeated Hermes Trismegistus and basically stole all his secret knowledge.
Wait, so the Christian saint is actually a cosmic thief stealing from the Hermetic tradition?
That's exactly the claim, and they tie it to the geography. They say the path to Santiago is symbolically the Milky Way, and the pilgrim is actually the divine wanderer, Hermes Mercury himself.
So you're walking a path, but you're actually just reenacting a planetary orbit. I mean, I usually just walk to the kitchen for more coffee, but okay.
Look at the claim they make about the pilgrims themselves. They say these people weren't traveling for Christian piety, but for Hermetic enlightenment offered by Moorish occultists in Spain. They were seeking to possess the star, the compass, or possession, and the stella, or star.
It's that shadow history again. The official religion is the cover story. The real movement is the pursuit of the stars.
And then they bring us back to Mary. They track her from the escape to Marseille, then to Aix-Morny-Masha. They claim she lived as a hermit in a cave they specifically link to pagan worship of Diana Lucifera.
Diana Lucifera? That's a lot of names for one cave.
It's a lot of layers, Paco. And they mention her skull, encased in a gold mask, is still carried through the streets on her feast day.
But look at the dark side of this history. They bring up the Cathars. The authors say the Inquisition wiped them out specifically because they believed Mary Magdalene was the wife of Jesus.
And they drop a chilling detail. The massacres in Béziers in 1209 happened on July 22nd exactly on her feast day. The authors suggest the timing wasn't a coincidence. It was a targeted strike against the very idea of her lineage.
That's incredibly bleak. Using a holy day to commit a massacre?
It's the way to erase a symbol. You don't kill the people. You kill the date they belong to.
What on earth was that?
Probably just the universe trying to remind us that gravity exists. Hey, sorry, the coffee machine is making that weird grinding sound again. Do you guys need a refill, or should I just run?
Just run, please. We're in the middle of a dark age here. Anyway, as I was saying, the authors conclude this section by admitting that even if the Priory of Sion is a modern hoax, and the physical bloodline is hard to prove, the myth is indestructible. The idea of the divine king marrying the goddess of the earth is a recurring theme in human consciousness that we can't just ignore.
Which leads us directly into Chapter 18, The Mystery of Baphomet.
And man, they don't hold back. They start with the Templars. They describe them as a group so powerful and wealthy that the Vatican viewed them as a direct rival.
And King Philip the Beautiful, the Fair, uses the classic move. He sees an opportunity to bankrupt them and refill his own treasury, so he crushes them.
The original hostile takeover.
But look at the why. The official reason was devil worship and secret deals with Muslims. But the authors argue the real plan was much more interesting. They claim the 9 founding knights weren't there to protect pilgrims. They were there to excavate.
To dig. They were basically high-stakes archaeologists under the Temple of Solomon.
And they claim they actually found something. They found gold and book scrolls from the Library of Alexandria, Essene writings, even manuscripts on alchemy and geometry.
This ties back to what we said about the treasure being knowledge.
Wait, did you see that part about the tunnels? They mentioned a lieutenant named Charles Warren, a Mason, who excavated these tunnels in the 19th century. The guy who investigated Jack the Ripper.
It's all connected in their eyes. The Knights Templar, the Masonic tradition, the mystery of the Ripper. It's all part of this same subterranean history.
They even suggest the Templars found the process of the great work, the secret of transforming metals. They say their massive wealth actually came from alchemical operations.
So the order wasn't just a bank, it was a laboratory.
Exactly. And the tragedy is that the authors claim the betrayers in the order leaked these alchemical secrets to King Philip, which led to the order's destruction.
It's always the betrayal. You can fight an army, but you can't fight a leak.
And then they hit us with the big one, Baphomet. The accusation that they worship this idol.
And the authors present all the versions. Is Baphomet a two-faced old man, a human skull that speaks prophecies, or a large black cat?
A black cat? Like Bast or Sekhmet?
Precisely. They're suggesting that the demon the church accused them of worshipping might actually have been an ancient Egyptian or even Gnostic deity. The Baphomet was just the mask the church used to demonize a much older, much more powerful truth. Let's take a breath before the Baphomet madness truly takes over.
Oh please, you're just scared I'm going to pull a great work reveal on your ego.
Not a chance, Paco.